Hey there, this is Jimmy Smutek with Smutek Creative. Last week I showed how to set up a WordPress backup plugin and how to take that backup and sync it with your Dropbox account. This week I want to show you how to take a copy of one of those backups and get a perfect clone of your website running on your computer. Now you might be wondering, why on earth would I want a copy of my website to be running on my computer? Well, one reason is that it makes a perfect testing environment. So if you want to do something like try out a new theme, try out some new plugins or some sort of new design on your site, you don't really want to do that with your live site. And you could set up a copy on another server somewhere, but I find that working on the computer makes things really quick and you don't have to worry about messing up your live site. You can just kind of go to town, experiment, and have a lot of fun. So there's a few steps in this. It's an easy process, but there's a few steps. The first thing that we have to do is we have to get a server running on our computer. So here I have a copy of my personal blog. My personal blog is here at smutek.ninja if anybody wants to check it out. It's really there, I promise. Okay, so there we go. There's my personal blog. And I made a copy of it here at smutekcreative.com/example. And this is the site that I'm going to take and move to my computer. So the first thing we need to do is get a server set up. Super easy to do, sounds complex, but there is one piece of software that we need to download. So there's a bunch of stuff on the market. The one that we're going to use today is called ServerPress, or actually it's called Desktop Server. So just do a Google search for Desktop Server, and the first link that comes up is serverpress.com. So we're going to click that. Top menu, click Desktop Server. Okay, so there's two versions, the limited version and the premium version. I have the premium version, but you don't need the premium version to do what I'm going to show you. Okay, so click Download Now. And again, here's the free version right here. Choose your platform, whether it's Mac or Windows, and download the installer. I'm going to skip the download because I already have Desktop Server installed. So go ahead and click that, download the installer, get the software installed, and come back. Okay, once you have the software installed, we're going to go ahead and launch the software. So this is all pretty straightforward. You should see this window when you launch Desktop Server. So the first thing it's going to ask is, do you want to restart the software with privileges? You want to check yes and click next. What's going to happen is the software is going to quit and then restart and ask you for administrative privileges. So this is completely fine. So I'm going to go ahead and give it admin privileges and click OK. Now the next one is going to ask if you want to start Apache and MySQL. So those are the server services that we need to get running. So we're going to check yes and click next. So it's going to start up the server. It's going to ask if we want to accept incoming network connections. We're going to click allow. One thing I'll point out is that if you are on public Wi-Fi, like at a coffee shop or something, probably want to deny that just for security reasons. But if you're on your home network, it's okay. Click allow. So once that's done, we'll click next. Okay, so now I want to show real quick the really easy way to do this. This way assumes that you have the premium version. But again, don't worry because I'm going to show how to do this with the free version. But if anyone has the premium version, I just want to step through this really quick to show you how easy it is to do with the premium version. So if you have the premium version of Desktop Server, you'll have this option here to export, import, or share a website. So we'll click this and we're going to click next. We want to check import an existing WordPress website archive and click next. Now it's going to ask us for an import file. So what we need to do here is just grab one of those full site backups that we made from BackWP Up. And again, I went over that in last week's post. If you haven't done that, go ahead and check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Dropbox folder. Okay, and I'm going to navigate to my backups, and I'm going to take the latest backup. I only have one because this is an example, and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to hold Option and drag, and I'm going to copy this to my desktop. The reason I'm copying it is because I want to leave a copy intact in my Dropbox folder. So let me go ahead and jump over to the desktop. So desktop server is asking us for an import file. Now you can see here, select the website archive zip file. So we need a zip file. I have my BackWP up set up to output a gzip, which is a .gz. So what I need to do is unzip this folder, unzip this archive, okay, and I need to resave it as a zip file. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the gz file. I'm going to move to trash, select BackWP up. I'm going to right click on a Mac and choose compress, and this is going to save it as a zip file. If you're on Windows, use whatever you would use to make zip files. I'm not sure what that is, but just use that and basically take the folder, turn it into a zip file. And again, this is for the premium version. I'm going to go ahead and go over the free version after this. This will just take a second. So now that that's finished, I'm going to move the folder to the trash because this zip file is what we need. So I'll go ahead and close the Finder window. I'm going to give the site a name. So .dev is the domain that is going to run on our computer. So I'll just call this example blog. Site root tells me where the files are going to be kept on my computer. So in my case, it's going to be my documents folder in a folder called websites, and a folder called www.exampleblog.dev. So now the only thing to do is find the import file. So I'll click in that field. I'm going to click on desktop, and oddly enough, nothing comes up. You'll notice that desktop is grayed out up here. This seems to be some sort of bug with desktop server. It's easy to get around it. So if I just click here in the drop down, you can navigate to the desktop this way. In my recent places, I have desktop. If I just click this, now the folder will show up. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to choose open, and that's it. I'll click next, and desktop server is going to go ahead and import the site, set everything up for me, and that's it. So if you have the premium version, you're done, and you can stop watching the video now. So we'll just click next, and it gives us a link to the .dev location. I click that, it's going to open up the browser, and this site is running on my computer. So now I'm going to go over the free version, but real quick, I'm going to go ahead and delete this site so we can kind of start over from scratch. So bear with me 1 second here. I'm going to jump back to desktop server, and I'm going to click next. I'm going to remove a site. Choose the blog I just set up, remove website, and yes, that's okay. Okay, so now for the not as easy, but still easy version. There's a few steps to this. The first thing we need to do is to set up a new WordPress install, just a fresh blank install. So from this page, you want to select Create a New Development Website. Click Next. Fill in the site name. So for mine, I'm going to do, for this example, I'm going to go with jimmy-blog.dev. The blueprint, this is different versions of WordPress. Whatever the default is with your version of desktop server, just go with that. We can update everything once the site's installed. Again, the site root is where all your files are going to live. So with that done, with the site name filled out and the blueprint at default, we'll just click Create. Now desktop server is setting up the WordPress install. It's making the database and etc., etc. We'll click Next. Now we're going to click this link to finish up the WordPress install. It's going to open up a browser window, and this is the famous 3-minute install of WordPress. Select your language, choose Continue, give this site a title. So I have a bunch of stuff in here. I'm just going to go with Jimmy Blog. Username, I'll go with Jimmy.Smootek, and password, I'll just put in password. Don't ever do this on a live site on the internet, but for the purposes of this screencast, it doesn't really matter what's filled in here because all of this is going to get erased when we import the database from our live site. So with all that filled out, click Install WordPress. WordPress is going to run the installer, and success. So we now have a copy of WordPress set up on our computer. So we'll click Login. Log in with your credentials that you set up. Okay. Now, if there are any updates available for your site, go ahead and update everything. I'm going to do that real quick. You may not have any updates, depending if you just downloaded your copy of Desktop Server, you should be fine. But I'm going to go ahead and update my core WordPress real quick because we want this local site. We want all of the core files to match what's on a remote site. So we just updated WordPress, and let's go to plugins. Actually, let's go to dashboard and updates. And let's go ahead and update the plugins. Turn to WordPress updates, and let's select all. Let's update the themes. So now we've got everything up to date and ready to go. Okay. Great. So now we have a copy of WordPress set up. We're ready for the next step. Okay, so now that we have a copy of WordPress running on our computer, the next thing we need to do is check to make sure that the database prefixes on the remote site match the database prefixes on the local site. I know that sounds kind of complex, but it's actually really easy to do. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over to your live website, your remote website. We're going to go to the dashboard. We're going to go to plugins, add new, and we're going to install a plugin. And the name of that plugin is Change DB Prefix, and it's DB as in database. So enter that into the search field and hit enter. The first result should be this Change DB Prefix by Miss Bhumi Shah. So we're going to go ahead and install that plugin. And again, we're on our live site now installing this plugin, and we just need to check and see what the database prefix is. So we know on the local site that the database prefix is WP underscore. And we know that because that is the default database prefix for any new WordPress install, and that's what server or desktop server uses. So let's see what our live site uses. So we're going to go to settings, change DB prefix. This is on the live site. Now, my prefix is D4X2. Yours could be anything. If your prefix looks like this, WP with an underscore, then you're done. There's no need to do anything else here. You can uninstall that plugin and skip ahead. But in my case, the plugin, the database prefix is D4X2. So I need this to match what's on my local site. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install the same plugin on my local site. So let's go ahead and search for Change DB Prefix. Enter. Install now. Let's activate the plugin. Settings. Change database prefix. So again, the goal here is getting the local site and the remote site to match. So this is super simple. All we're going to do is go to our live site. We're going to copy the existing prefix, this field right here, existing prefix. We'll highlight it, right click, copy everything, including the underscore, jump back over to the local site. So the existing prefix on the local site is WP, and we want to change that to what's on our remote site. So we'll right click and paste. Okay, and again, if the existing prefix on your live site is WP, you don't have to do any of this. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. Okay, now I've gotten a PHP warning up here, but this message here tells me that all tables have been successfully updated. So we're done. So if I click this again, change DB prefix on my local site, I'll see that it's now D4X2, and that's exactly what we want. And with that done, we can go ahead and uninstall this plugin. So let's deactivate it and delete. And that's fine. Let's jump back over to our live site and let's deactivate it and delete it. All right, great. So now we have our database prefixes matching, and it's time to go to the next step. With the database prefixes matched up, the next thing we want to do is get a copy of one of our backups. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into my Dropbox folder. And again, I'm going to navigate to where Dropbox is keeping my backups, which in my case is back WP up It's in a folder called apps, back WP up, example site, and right here. So I'm going to not move, but copy. I'm going to hold Option and drag it to my desktop. If you move it, it's going to take it out of your Dropbox, and I would like to have this copy still in my Dropbox. So let me jump onto the desktop. I'm going to go ahead and double click this to uncompress it, and I can delete the gzip file. Okay. So if you have a messy desktop, you might want to make a folder to keep this stuff in. So let me make a folder called Migrate, and I'll go ahead and move this into here so that we have it in one place. Okay, great. So now we have a copy of all of our site files on the desktop, and we can move on to the next step. So the next thing to do is to get a copy of the database from our live site. Again, this is super easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window, and I'm going to go to my live site, and I'm going to add a new plugin. And this plugin is called DB, again, as in database, Migrate, like birds migrate. So I'd enter to search, and this is the plugin we're looking for. So it has the birds, and it says WP Migrate DB. So we want to click Install now. Okay, and we're going to activate the plugin, and this is what's going to give us a perfect copy of our database. So if you know about the method of moving a WordPress site where you export the XML file, there's a difference. When you migrate the database, you also bring all of your menu settings, all of your plugin configurations, your widget configurations, everything about the configuration of your WordPress site comes with you. The XML file will give you your content, but not all of this other stuff. So with that said, let's go ahead and go to Tools, Migrate DB. So here's where we're going to set up the export of the database. So what it's going to do is it's going to take our database and do a find and replace to match everything up from the live site to the local site. So what we need to know is the URL of our local site and the file path of our local site. But how do we find that information out? Well, again, super easy. Jump over to the local site, add a new plugin, and we're going to install the exact same plugin on our local site. Okay, install WP Migrate DB. Okay, let's activate the plugin, and we'll go to Tools, Migrate DB. I know it seems like a lot of plugins and stuff, but this is the last one. All we have to do here is on our local site, we want to copy this from Find, this path, jump over here to our live site, and paste it into Replace. So basically what we're saying is, hey, go into the database on a live site, find everything with this, and replace it with this. And it's not going to do anything to your live site, it's just going to export a file with these changes. So let's do the same with the second field. Go to our local site, copy the second field from the Find field, go back to our live site, paste, and that's it. Under advanced options, you can do leave this checked. You can exclude spam comments. You can exclude cache data. You can exclude post revisions. So that's up to you. If you want to bring, basically, you can leave everything here with the defaults. If you want to bring your revisions with you, go ahead and check that, or uncheck it rather. It's unchecked by default. If you don't want to bring your revisions, go ahead and check it. So that's it. With that stuff filled out, we're just going to click Migrate. And now DB Migrate Pro is making a copy of our database. And once it's done, it's going to download it to our desktop, or to our downloads folder rather. All right, so that's done. Let's go ahead and find this file. I'm going to show it in the Finder. All right, and I'm going to move this over to my desktop so I can get at it easily. All right, so now we have the copy of our website and a copy of our database, and we are just about done. So the next thing we need to do is to go back over to Desktop Server. Okay, so I still have this page up. I'm going to click Next, and from, I'll call this the home page of the Desktop Server app. From the home page, you'll have this button down here in the lower left-hand corner that says Sites. Just go ahead and click this. It's going to open up a window in your browser, and what we want is the second link from the top. or I'm sorry, the first link, PHP My Admin. Go ahead and click that. It's going to open up this crazy looking window. And what we have here is a list of all the databases. Now I'm going to have more because I have a bunch of sites set up on my computer. But you want to find the one for your website. And you might wonder, well, which one is that? Generally, they're named. So my site is called Jimmy Blog. So this is my database right here. And again, you can't really mess anything up here because this is on your computer. If you do mess up, you can just start over. But by default, in PHP My Admin, you should have information, schema, MySQL, and maybe test. So it should be pretty easy to find your database. Anyway, once you find your database in the left-hand column, go ahead and click on it. And this is all of your database tables. Okay, so what we need to do now is just click Import right here. Then we want to choose the file to import. And what we're going to do now is we're going to import that database that we exported from our live website. So we're going to click Choose File from the desktop. This is the database right here. And you'll know because it has a .sql.gz. Just import it as is. Just highlight it and click Open. And once you've done that, this button here, click Go. So PHP My Admin just imported the database, and now, if everything went right, this is exactly what we want. So what happened here is that your database from your live site has now been imported into the local site. So what you want to do at this point is authenticate with the username and password that you would use for your live site. And that's it. So real quick, let me just do this. Let me show you this. You want to go to first thing, go to Settings, Permalinks. Just to make sure that there's no weirdness going on, just click Save Changes. Don't visit the front end of your site yet because we still have to move all the files and stuff over. Okay, so this is the last step. So what we want to do here is in this Migrate folder, I'm going to go into my backup. I'm going to go to WP Content, and I want pretty much everything that's in this WP Content folder. And I want to dump it in to my new site, my new local site. So I'm going to open up a new Finder window, and I'm going to navigate to the location of my website. And in my case, it's at Documents, Websites, jimmyblog.dev, and WP Content. So I want to take this stuff from my backup and dump it in here and just replace everything. So I'm going to select all. I'm just going to drag it and drop. Now your OS is going to say, hey, you're trying to overwrite stuff. There's already a file in there called index.php and there's already a folder called such and such. That's fine. We want to overwrite this stuff. So we're going to click Apply to All and Replace. Okay, now that should be it. With that done, let's go ahead and click Save Changes on the permalinks again. And if we visit the site, so that's it. And now you're done. Now you have a copy of your website running on your computer. Okay, so we can go ahead and close that, and let's close up PHP My Admin. And now we can do something like try out a new theme. So let's add new, and let's just pick a random theme. Let's see. Let's check the popular tag. And let's just try this one. Activate it. Let's view the front page. So, you know, I mean, we could do something with this, but like the main point is that you don't want to do these kind of experiments on your live site. So now we have a nice copy of the website on our computer that we can experiment with, and that about does it. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was kind of long, but really it's a pretty easy process. And next week I'll show you how to take all of this stuff and move it back to your live website. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.